Hi, my name is Angela, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my best tips for a fourth-year pharmacy student going into PGY1 residency applications, how you should present yourself to the residency program just in general. I'm currently a PGY1 ambulatory care track resident, and this is my own personal opinion, but as the recruitment season kicks up here this month and then in the coming months, and people start thinking about applications and applying and reaching out to programs, I thought it would be helpful to give some tips on what I think would be best practices, online, in person, virtual etiquette, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I'm going to cover in this video. So as far as emails go, my biggest recommendation is just to keep it brief. Do not send a really long email because they read a ton of emails. The program directors and the residents, have a ton, everyone has a ton of emails. So keep yours really brief, and I think they will appreciate that. And I think you get a response much sooner, or you're going to get the answers you want much sooner. Read your email out loud if you need to. If you're afraid that you misspelled something, I mean, we all do it, but read it out loud and then just cut out the information that seems superfluous or too much, just like you would do, for anyone. Just try to make it brief. Introduce yourself. You just say, my name is X. I'm from X pharmacy school in my fourth year. That's all you need. And if you're a PGY1, then say you're a PGY1 going into PGY2, things like that. But for fourth year students, I would just say, your year, your school, and your first name, and then the reason you're reaching out. I had a question about this. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm interested in your program. I wanted to speak with someone, learn about something. Just say your name, where you're from, what year you are, and then why you're reaching out. Just right off the bat helps give a really good introduction, in my opinion. I would say to don't over flatter the program right off the bat and say your program is amazing, I absolutely love it, and I'm just here to just say how much I love it. That's great and that's appropriate, but you can do that later on if you get an interview, because really I think the goal of your communication should mainly be that you are seeking information about them. You're not necessarily already head over heels for sure going to apply and wanting to rank them first. Even if that is you, just give it some time and hold back is what I would say. You should definitely thank them though if they give you information or respond to your email. Definitely say thanks. That's never a bad thing. Be grateful for them to reaching back out to you and getting back with you in your response. And then when it comes to like timeline, I think that I definitely had some programs I reached out to and they didn't reach out back to me, and so I reminded them, or I sent a reminder email and I just said, hey, just checking in to see if you got my previous email. I would love to hear an answer. At your earliest convenience, give me an answer, or as soon as you have time, something like that. I think that's nice to do as a buffer for them to get back to you. But of course, they're going to get back to you whenever they want to, but it's nice to say. And then I would just suggest to make it easy to read and easy for them to respond. You may already know this, but sometimes people respond to emails by putting their responses in a different color on top of your old email. So let's say it's a program and you're reaching out to a resident and you want to know like 3 different things. Instead of saying it in one big long paragraph, put it in bullets or put it in a numbered list. That way they know exactly which question goes with which answer, and if I was a resident responding to that, I could go right on top of the question or right next to it in a different color. It's just super easy. So again, like the more brief and the more organized you make your communications, the easier they can get back with you. So that's something I would recommend. And then if you have, an email signature, most people do, make sure you say that you're a PharmD candidate and then the year you're going to graduate, the pharmacy school you're from, and then your email for them to get back with you, of course, the one that you're sending it from, but then also listed there. So that should be a minimum of like a email signature that you have to just look professional. You can put a phone number if you want, probably not a bad idea. In pharmacy school, I had an email signature that kind of had my leadership position. So, if I was in a certain organization, it would say what position I was in and maybe a couple others. And that was helpful when I sent emails as a pharmacy student to others, so they knew, okay, so I'm speaking on behalf of an organization, but what am I doing in that organization? Those email signatures I think are very helpful because then you know exactly why that person's doing what they're doing. But in residency emails, I would cut that out because, again, brief, and also they're likely not going to know what that means exactly, or if they do, they're going to be more interested in that when it comes time to maybe interview you or check your application. So it's just something to keep it more brief, but that's like a small thing. And I think when it comes to who to reach out to, it is definitely appropriate to reach out to the residency program director or the RPD. I mean, they're in charge of their program. Some people feel intimidated. I know I did, to reach out to program directors. I thought they'd have a million things going on. They wouldn't be interested in my questions, but definitely I learned it's their job and they appreciate that, and they can always field a question that they don't have time for or don't understand to someone who can answer it. So email to the RPD, also the residency coordinator. I kind of think it should be in that order, RPD, and then if they don't reach out after you do like a week later, a reminder email like, hey, did you get my past email? And then reach out to the coordinator a week after that if you don't get an email, or one of the pharmacy residents that's already currently there. That's what, I think that you should do, but, just kind of give them time, and the earlier you reach out, the better. And then when it comes to video, or virtual information sessions, chats, whatever you call it, it's a different time with COVID and with all these virtual interviews and this virtual residency recruitment, but I think it's most professional to have your camera on. I think it adds to the experience. I think the program appreciates that. It's it's still a new area, honestly, for a lot of people, even though we've been in COVID pandemic for a long time, but I think it helps make the experience more human and make everyone a little bit more comfortable. So if you do have your video on, then you should definitely have some sort of a professional background. And so if you're in a large virtual recruitment session and you're one of many students, probably not super important, but definitely if you're one-on-one or you scheduled like a sit down with a current resident or a current program director, someone in leadership at the institution you're interested in, have a professional background, have good lighting, try not to be in a noisy environment as much as you can. If you are in a noisy environment, let's say you're in like a hospital because you're on rotation and this is the only time you can schedule it, just let them know, hey, sorry, I'm in a hospital, I apologize. But that's better than just having the noisy background and then you have it come out later when they can't hear you for some reason. So just trying to be professional, but I would say that it's a good practice for interviews, and also not that you're trying to impress them again in those initial times, but it helps you put your best foot forward. And it's sad when someone who is a really good candidate is counted off for or remembered only for the times they weren't professional, even though, they really are a good candidate. So just put your best foot forward. So during like those virtual information sessions that you might go to, there can be a lot, so don't feel like you have to go to each and every one is my advice. But, don't be afraid to ask questions. It kind of sucks sometimes how people, will ask questions over each other and they feel super bad, but that's just the environment we're in and that's just the best we can do. Put all your questions in the chat then. Don't feel like, oh, I have to get on the video and ask this question because that's how they'll remember me and see me. Probably won't. The time, so many candidates, so many different sessions. If you want an answer, just put it in the chat, and someone will probably either pull it from the chat and answer it to the group, or they will answer it directly in the chat. So, I know some questions are best addressed in person or like over your voice instead of writing it down, but try to think about that option. And then the last thing I would say is that I have, as a resident, I've had other pharmacy students reach out to me on LinkedIn and try to connect and talk to me through that, which is totally fine. It's not a bad thing. But I think it's a little bit of a stretch personally, because LinkedIn is, I would think there's a low threshold to connect with someone like on LinkedIn, but I don't know if just because you're interested in a program, you can automatically connect with someone on there. I think if you had a conversation with them, if you emailed them, that's probably a little bit more rational to do it. But again, it's not going to really do too much for you to connect with them on LinkedIn. It's kind of the similar thing of like asking your question to the group versus in the chat. I just don't think it means that much, and if anything, it could come off a little bit strange. If you want to follow that person, let's say they're a resident in a program you're interested in and they post stuff about their residency training on LinkedIn, that's a little bit different, and I would instead just view their profile or view, most likely their residency has a social media page, and just follow that. But it's kind of a weird area. I personally would only connect with someone on LinkedIn for a program I was interested in if I talked to them in person or emailed them a couple times. And even then with the email, I would probably just wait. I would probably just hold off. So that's my advice for kind of like how you present yourself, how you, navigate these kind of different areas of getting to know a program, and how to present yourself in the best way possible to give you good chances of success. So hopefully this was helpful. If you liked it, go ahead and like the video and share it with someone else who's going through recruitment and needs a little bit of advice. If you have any questions, put them in the chat or in the comments below, and then any other topics you think that would be helpful for me to cover. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next week.